You know, I'm going to give you a history lesson.
We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country.
Stop laughing! And when I do, start fucking.
Also, y'all did some nasty-ass jokes on my ass, too.
Funny jokes and unfunny jokes come out of the same birth.
You fucking guys are unbelievable.
Why are you laughing?
Welcome, everybody, to a beautiful bank vault in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. We're here at Vaulted Podcasts, where Matt from Rhode Island, Helms, that doesn't make any sense. Helms? Hails from, that's what I meant.
Hails.
The whole,
It's also helming.
The whole gang is with us. Craig, Mike, and I'm pleased to introduce to you today Dave Chappelle leaving Comedy Central, which I believe genuinely is the fork in the road of Chappelle's career. I can't hear anything now. Okay, now I'm back. Where legitimately we would have, I think Chappelle would be Chris Rock if he stayed on Chappelle Show, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but what's Chris Rock done in the last 15 years? Whereas now Dave Chappelle is this
spiral,
this czar and this philosopher that he's become. He's basically the George Carlin, Lenny Bruce of this era. Where if he does not walk away from $52 million, I don't think he ever becomes that guy.
Yeah.
Excellent feedback.
No, I think.
All right.
Right.
I guess I'll just get into it.
No, I think right.
Quantum Leap Chris was right. There are too many voices.
I thought he was about to. He said yes, so I just went to stop because I thought he was going to continue.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say the Carlin comparison I think is perfect because
big time.
Everyone
racistly compares him to Richard Pryor, but I think he's a lot more like George Carlin.
I think they compare him to Pryor and the impact he has on comedy as a whole, but his stand-up is a lot like Carlin's, and that's a lot of preaching.
Well, it's also just a general contempt for society.
He's completely become a guy that wants to, I mean, like, we're recording this, so that, who knows, I'm sure the tragedy of Dave Chappelle's The Closer will still be raging on by the time this comes out. But right now it's a hot issue as we're recording. And I think that's because Chappelle purposely wants to talk about things that are going to piss people off.
Yeah.
And it is legitimately about art form. And I mean, it's a lot easier for Chappelle to do that because even though he turned down $50 million, he's a very rich guy. Whereas if, you know, comedian X coming up right now tries to do that, it's like, oh, well, he'll just never play anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm sure whatever money he has goes really far in rural Ohio.
Yeah.
How insane is it that he lives there?
I mean, that's what a lot of guys do now, though.
Yeah.
Nate Bargatze lives in Tennessee.
Yeah,
a lot of guys are moving out there. I mean, Rogan, obviously, in Austin. So that's becoming more and more common. But Chappelle was like one of the first to do that. And I think he just likes it that way because as we'll go through in this episode, he seems to really, like you said, contempt. I think he genuinely hates Hollywood. He hates what fame turns people into and all of that.
Yeah.
But he did a good job of establishing himself fairly early, which I did not really know. I think we have Neil Brennan talking about Chappelle's early career, right, Matt?
Yes, we do.
Let me hear it.
Yeah, so that's how I knew Dave. So his career was fucked up after Half Baked. I felt bad. Like, they literally said on CNN his career is over.
What? From that movie?
From the movie, yeah. The review said his career is over, and like his mom saw it.
But I don't. I fucking
don't bring anyone's mom.
I don't know the. I don't know the details of it, but I feel like I saw some doc or something that said, I think before your guys' show, that he'd had like 9 pilots. Or
yeah.
something.
Oh yeah. He'd done like. Well, that was the thing. He kept doing like these fucking sitcoms.
Because that was his production company.
Yeah,
it was Pilot Boy.
Yeah. Like, but it was called that from the beginning, which I think he knew. I'm going to be doing a lot of these fucking pilots, and he did pilots. Again, how old I am. He was doing I remember him doing a pilot and me talking, and during the LA riots.
What? Really?
Yes.
So he was like 19 when he was getting pilots.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know what these pilots were. Maybe they were along the lines of Chappelle Show or something, but wouldn't he be the strangest guy to imagine in a sitcom? Like him and the wife and kids and shit.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot picture that now anyways.
Especially at 19. It's crazy how young he was when he started. I'm pretty sure he was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And he was having trouble just getting on stage because he wasn't allowed in wherever they were doing stand-up.
He was like, I mean, their careers went in very different places, but like you'll hear guys in New York now talk about Pete Davidson. Now, they were like buddies with him when he was 16.
Yeah.
And that was kind of Chappelle, where he was just hanging around the comedy scene where everyone knew him when he was like 17, 18 years old. He was in I remember he was in The Nutty Professor, which
yeah, he shows up in weird spots that like you don't think about.
I've heard people even at that time say like, "Oh, well, Dave has made it now." Because he was in an Eddie Murphy movie, which is like a small role, but it's funny to think at that like in the early '90s, like he said during the Rodney King riots and shit.
He was in Nutty Professor.
Yeah, he was like the comedian in the Nutty Professor. Right?
Yeah,
he was like
at the club. Okay.
Yeah.
It was like at the beginning of the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But like a small role like that, people were like, "Oh, well, he made it," and then he's gone on to do what he did.
Well, back then, roles that size could, really launch a career.
Yeah.
I think the last person that happened to was Kevin Hart in a 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
That was the last time I can think of someone having a tiny,
a great Kevin Hart.
Tiny part.
What did he say? What did he say there? He's coming back for what?
Refer to our previous episode.
Why? What's happening?
No, nothing.
Oh,
it was just the N-word.
He was goading me.
Oh, I see. I see. All right.
Trying to get him to quote.
Some good inside, very good show humor there.
Was it?
Kind of.
Yes.
Well, the title of our last episode.
All right.
I was referring to
too many voices.
Yeah, I know.
Counting them down.
Yeah.
So yeah, you heard Neil there talk about Half Baked, which it's funny to think of that as something that destroyed Chappelle's career because it is a cult classic. But if you go back and watch it now, like the artist that Chappelle has become, where he's this, like we said, philosopher, and he's talking about social issues and things. It is kind of funny to watch Half Baked, and like that's the humor he had, where it's like you would think Jim Brewer wrote that movie rather than Dave Chappelle, even though it's a funny movie.
Yeah,
like you don't think of that as Chappelle, but it's also funny to think that essentially ruined his career. Comedy Central then gave him a new life, I guess, which it didn't. I mean, as a stand-up, I think Chappelle was pretty successful. It's hard to say because A, I was a kid at the time and didn't know as much, but also B, it's hard to say because now we have a gauge of where everyone's at in their careers because of podcasts. You know, you can hear everyone literally talk about their fucking gigs. You know which shows sold out for people and shit like that, like where they're performing every week and things like that.
Right.
But it's hard to go back and say, like, well, did it ruin Chappelle's stand-up career? Like, were his crowds hurt by that or anything? So I don't really know that, but Comedy Central gave him a chance, obviously, and we'll get into how negotiations with that went. But as much as Chappelle is a voice for the voiceless at times and everything, he can be persuaded by the business, and we'll hear Neil Brennan again talk about that, and maybe he was influenced by people or whatever, but Chappelle didn't always do 100% what was right by everyone around him, which led to Neil Brennan and Chappelle not talking for a long time.
I had one question. So you and Dave Chappelle, you guys are on talking terms now, right?
Yeah.
And were you guys so for a long time? Because what was that like? You guys had
we were,
and it's okay. We don't have to talk about it if you don't want.
The way the show went, basically the way the negotiation after the show got popular was just not like good.
Did you have were you guys negotiating together with Comedy Central, or you guys were negotiating separately?
Kind of separately.
Right.
And that's the problem. You know, and I told them before we started, I go, they're going to play divide and conquer. They have to pay you. They don't have to pay me. So the only way they'll pay me is if you make them. And then they played him. It's just so many people come between. When something's popular, you just get layers of people that want to seem more important and want to seem like they're doing things
of course,
to protect Dave or who. It's not Dave. It was Dave in that case, but it's a bunch of people. It can be fucking. And so someone who actually is making the thing, they resent me. You know what I mean? Because like they're not writing, they're not directing, they're not in the shit.
You mean like an executive, like
not executives, like more like lawyers, agents, managers, type of thing.
They resent you because you have to be included because
I'm
part of the show.
I do the show.
Right.
They're not. I don't call I make the show. So then that creates separation, and then he left, and it was fucking like that added to it.
Was that a surprise when he left?
I mean, like in retrospect, not really, but that's a pretty big swing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you get a taste there, and it's hard to really blame Chappelle because, again, he was young. He was in his 20s when Chappelle's Show was on. So he's not like a veteran in the especially with the business aspect of it or anything, really.
Right.
But I think you also hear there, or maybe he didn't do right by Neil Brennan or whatever. Obviously, Neil's over it, or he seems to be. But it's interesting to hear. Maybe that was the first inkling Chappelle kind of had at the business tearing people apart and chiseling away at the show and not understanding what's good for the show and things like that. Where maybe he gave in there because he didn't know what he was doing, and that ultimately was the reason that he turned down $50 million from Comedy Central.
Neil Brennan is definitely still harvesting resentment.
Yeah,
I got out of that.
Yes and no. Like, it seems like they're fine now. I think at the time, like, he probably looks back at it and says, "I wish I was compensated more for one of the greatest shows of all time."
That potentially could have been the look I was seeing because he looked frustrated in that video.
A little bit.
I don't think it's Chappelle though. I don't think he looks. I don't think he looks at the guy that walked away from $50 million and said, "You fucked me over." So.
Especially when what he was talking about too, because he was saying, like, you know, you got these lawyers and negotiators and all these people who are trying to fuck you out of your money to take care of Dave.
Right.
You're like, all right. I don't know. I thought that was a little wonky.
So
what he was talking about, but yeah.
So Chappelle's Show season 1, which, by the way, it starts with maybe the greatest comedy sketch of all time.
Clayton Bigsby,
the blind black white supremacist.
Yeah.
Narrated by what's his face? That white dude that just says the N-word. That's how the show starts. He's from some news channel.
Dump truck.
He's from some news channel. Like he does like a 60 Minutes like show.
I don't even know.
Well, our researchers will get to the bottom of that. But it genuinely was, right off the bat, one of the greatest sketch comedy shows ever.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't, I don't think season 1 got crazy ratings. I don't think it was until the DVD sales broke all kinds of records. And obviously, like we talk now, I mean, you can go back to, I'm trying to think of what show specifically where they talked about this. Oh, God damn it. Gilligan's Island or something like that. Where the actors of Gilligan's Island really got fucked over. And the Brady Bunch.
Oh, yeah.
They never saw syndication rights.
Syndication.
Never, not even close. Now, like with Chappelle, we're in the era, they certainly didn't see streaming coming. But he's at the point where I don't even know if they saw DVD sales being what they were.
Yeah, you hear stories about that kind of stuff like all over the place. Like George Lucas, like, made sure he kept the merchandising rights to Star Wars, and then like other people, like Seinfeld, made sure South Park. Those guys held onto the streaming rights, like seeing that shit coming. That shit, you hear stories like that all over the place.
It's tough because like your instinct A is to blame the suits, man, because we're hip, cool guys, you know. We rail against the establishment, but your instinct is to be like, fuck Hollywood or whatever. But it is a business, so you can understand that angle of it too. But I think where you'll hear Chappelle coming a lot from is there's a point where you should say, I should do right by the guys that created this show.
Absolutely.
And where executives should acknowledge, I have virtually nothing to do with the making of this. All I do is work for the platform that can put this out there. You know, and there's never an acknowledgement of that. They always want to be on the creative side. They're very, very jealous of that and everything. And it caused Chappelle to be eventually one of the few guys that stood up to that. And you see pretty early on he starts to break. Like I said, Chappelle's, I believe I put in our notes, there were a mere 278 episodes. And there are only 28 episodes.
28, yeah.
And the last 3 were the lost episodes, not containing Chappelle. Well, Chappelle's in the sketches, but he's not hosting them.
I didn't realize there were only 3. I thought there were more than that.
I think they filmed more.
Yeah.
I don't know if there were more out. And well, there's also the one that's like hosted by Wayne Brady, right? I don't know if that's included in there.
I thought that was on purpose, though.
I thought so too.
I think it was.
I'm not sure if it was timed purposely though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it happened to fall when Chappelle was away.
Oh, maybe because I thought like the episode before there was a sketch that Brady killed somebody.
Yeah, I'm Wayne Brady, bitch.
Yeah, and then the next one he came out.
Is
like,
Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch?
Yeah,
Right,
is Wayne
right,
Brady gonna have to get up out the car and choke a bitch?
Thank Dave Chappelle, bitch. Wait, by the way,
Rat-tat-tat wave.
do you guys know Wayne Brady's like reaction to that episode?
I
He
mean,
hates it.
does he really?
He's very like
He said all that stuff.
I know, but he regrets doing it. Like I don't think he blames anyone.
regrets it.
I don't think he blames anyone, but I guess he looks back at that and really cringes, and it's like he looks at his brand. You know, he's fucking fun Wayne Brady and dancing, and
Yeah.
he's he's a
whose
game
line
show
is it
host.
anyway?
Yeah, he's a fun. As Paul Mooney says in that,
Yeah.
Wayne Brady makes Brian Gumble look like Malcolm X. I think that was
true.
That was very tactful by Wayne Brady. So he looks back at that and kind of cringes, but it's like, how do you not appreciate that? That's again one of the great sketches.
Yeah, there's a long history in Hollywood of people like breaking typecast to do stuff like that.
The point of that is that Wayne Brady is such a
Milquetoast.
milk toast guy.
The thing is too, it's what that's probably what he's most known for is that sketch.
Not by his
really.
audience though.
By us. By us, sure.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But his audience is fucking housewives,
Yeah.
soccer moms.
His audience is like people who watch primetime TV.
Well, not even that. People who watch daytime.
Yeah,
TV.
daytime.
For a while, though,
Game
it
shows.
was just
Yeah.
I'm Wayne Brady, bitch.
Yeah.
So what's next in our notes, Matthew?
We get to the Oprah show, and Dave talks about the success of Chappelle Show.
Did I have one note first though on the before we get to the clips? I had one note on something he said. I think I should have the exact quote there during one of his stand-up sets.
Oh, and
Maybe I have it out of order.
the I'm Rick James bitch.
But this came before
When he walked off the stage in Sacramento.
Yeah. So Chappelle Show's still going on at this time, and it's at the height of its popularity. And Chappelle was on stage in Sacramento, and someone yells out, "I'm Rick James, bitch," and he did not take kindly to that.
Yeah. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
It says, in 2004, he walked off the stage in Sacramento after fans kept yelling, "I'm Rick James, bitch." He returned to the stage to say the show was ruining his life and added, "You know why my show is good? Because the network officials say you're not smart enough to get what I'm doing, and every day I fight for you. I tell them how smart you are. Turns out I was wrong. You people are stupid."
So Chappelle was pissed. Now, by the way, Chappelle has a long history of these weird shows where he's angry at the crowd and walks off stage.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like, as much as that's a cool moment, like to look back at that he told the crowd to fuck themselves.
Yeah.
At a certain point, it's like, Dave, come on, these people are paying to see you.
Calm down, Axl Rose.
There is like a buddy of mine. I think it was 2011. I remember this made headline. This was a pretty popular story where Chappelle, like when he was starting to come back. He was starting to do bigger shows again and everything. Like before this, he was playing, weird basements in the middle of the country and shit. Now he's starting to come back, and he was at that Oddball Comedy Festival that a lot of big names did. It was in Hartford, and same type of thing. People started to yell shit. I think it was late in the day, and people were drunk. It was a festival, so they were there all day. And I guess Chappelle told people to shut the fuck up, and they wouldn't. So then he just sat there. And he was like, they're paying me either way. He just fucking sat there and stared at the crowd. And it's funny for us to hear about, but if you're there, you're like, what the fuck, man?
Right. And we were talking, you were talking the other day that a lot of times people would go to his shows and he would just be hammered on stage.
Well, yeah. I mean, you heard that at the Madison Square Garden 9/11 show. I guess he was shit-faced.
Oh, I'd be furious if I spent that kind of money.
But shows like that, I mean, I've never had the chance to ask him, but maybe he would tell you that at a comedy festival he's less worried about. Because when I saw him in Providence, and he was perfect. There was not a single. It was his act. It was basically what you saw in one of the Netflix specials. So maybe his excuse would be like, "Hey, you're seeing 25 comics. Do I?"
Yeah.
But he'll stand on stage for 9 hours. So I don't know.
There's some comics that are just like that.
Well, yeah,
my brother-in-law went to go see Tracy Morgan. He was like, he was wasted the whole time and was just hitting on a girl in the front row.
See, that would still be funny.
He said ordinarily it would be. He's like, but it just the jokes weren't hitting.
Yeah. So the big difference with Tracy Morgan and Chappelle is though, if you see Tracy Morgan do that, you're like, that's Tracy.
Yeah,
that's how that
Tracy
rascal.
Morgan.
With Dave, you expect mind-altering wisdom.
Right.
So if he's shit-faced, like, fuck you, you're like, all right. So not long after that, 2004, we start to get to the point where season 2 is over, and you start to hear rumors that Dave Chappelle's left the show. Comedy Central, like I've said, offered him $52 million, I believe it was, over, I forget exactly, 3 or 4 seasons.
That's it?
Yeah, I think. Possibly 5. It might have been $10 million a season. But around either, no matter what, it's big money.
Right. But he didn't want to get roped in that long.
He didn't want to get roped in that long. He was starting to have stressful days. He was really getting tired of doing the show, as you could hear from that show in Sacramento. He felt like people weren't getting the show. Like, in his mind, it's like we talked about with Norman Lear, where the cast was saying, hey, we're doing some groundbreaking storylines, and these assholes see us in public and yell dynamite. You know, like, what the fuck? Where I think that's where Chappelle was getting, where he's like, Rick James, bitch, is your takeaway from the art I'm creating?
Yeah.
So he's talking about...
At some point, it's like, get off your high horse.
Well, catchphrases exist for a reason.
There's some of that. But he's also, like he said on stage, he's battling with the network over and over again, where they're saying, oh, the people won't get this. You know, if you put this in there, change this because people won't get it. And he's like, you're thinking of them as idiots. Like, they're not. My audience isn't idiots. And then in that moment, he felt like, oh, maybe they are.
Well, the thing with the Rick James thing, and he gets pissed that that's their takeaway. It's what, a 7-minute sketch, and he says, "I'm Rick James" 1,200 times.
Yeah, it says a ton of times
in the thing. It's like, what do you expect people to take away from it?
But yeah, but even that, I don't know. I get what you're saying. Where obviously that's going to be some people's takeaway.
Yeah.
But I also get it being frustrating. Because for you and the audience, you're yelling it out once.
Yeah.
For him, he hears it every day, everywhere he goes.
No, I understand that, but it's like...
And it's not just Rick James. It's, I'm rich, bitch, all that type of shit.
Unity.
Yeah.
Unity. But there's also, like, he's... I don't know. I feel like when you're in that position, you're right. You get frustrated, like, easily. But you also have to understand, like, you're grabbing, like, casual fans, like, every once in a while. And be like, oh, I saw this. This was kind of funny. Maybe I'll go see this guy.
Right.
And you're a new fan of his, and I don't know.
I'm not even saying Chappelle's 100% right. I guess I'm saying I would rather every artist and every comedian and every television writer be more like Chappelle than the opposite, where they're like, oh, I love that they're yelling our wacky catchphrase.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's so much better for television.
To the machine.
And now, right. And now
oh, God.
Now that's all. Well, I don't have a problem with, like, Bert Kreischer doing it because he saves it at the end. Like, he does it at the
Right.
end.
Yeah.
Gaffigan does the same thing. Where he does.
It's so weird that people request comedy bits.
They yell Hot Pockets or whatever.
So weird.
And Gaffigan will do it at the end to appease people.
Seen it.
And that's fine. But it's now we're at the point in television where it's like that's everything. Where it's like, hey, make a Batman movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, what if Superman's kid's gay? Wouldn't that be crazy? So they're just coming up with different spins on things that already exist because there's no creativity.
And new Superman doesn't use his X-ray vision at all because that's stepping over the line, and they didn't give permission.
Yes. What's next, Matt? Now he's on Oprah, right?
Yes.
Okay. So after being
look how skinny she was.
This is Oprah's looking good. After this is kind of, I'm not the guy to play the race card or anything, but this is an example of Hollywood genuinely being racist. Whereas I don't even know if this is maybe not racist, but like just evil. Because I don't know if it's a race thing. Maybe they would have done the same thing with a white guy. But all of a sudden you start to hear stories out there that Chappelle moved to Africa, is in a psych ward, and is doing crack cocaine.
I remember those stories.
I heard all of those.
Yeah, I heard all those too.
Yeah, Chappelle is now on drugs, according to the media, which, I mean, he was always smoking weed. But other than that, there's never been ties to
The only drug he may have done when he was gone is steroids, because he got huge.
I was literally just going to say, look how normal-sized his head is.
It's weird. So we're going to hear Chappelle. Oh, this is the first clip we're hearing of Chappelle, right? Yeah, so it's going to be weird to hear his old voice.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know.
Oh,
The high-pitched.
If you go back and watch Killing Him Softly, it's a different guy.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Totally.
That's why I think he actually was on steroids.
well, it's all cigarettes, too.
That's right.
Yeah.
He wasn't smoking back then?
Well, I mean,
just the years. Of,
yes, but 20 years of 3 packs a day or whatever the fuck he's doing.
Yeah,
he goes through packs on stage.
I know that's so much.
Nuts.
He didn't smoke in his last special, which I was surprised by.
It might not have been allowed.
It probably wasn't allowed.
Some places, even with the art bullshit, where it's like, oh, it's a performance. Some places still don't allow it.
We talked about that there in Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? COVID too, probably. I imagine COVID had something to do with it. So his big first appearance back in public is on Oprah. What's the first clip, Matt?
Talking about the success of the Chappelle Show.
Okay, so yeah, I think this is Oprah pretty much just telling you the heights it's reached.
So what happened? Did you find yourself spiraling downward?
Well, first of all, yeah, but I don't want to make it as a thing where I'm absolving myself of any responsibility of it. Obviously, I'm partially responsible. You know, a lot of it has to do with me.
Was there a tipping point for you?
I'll give you an example. The first season ends.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the seasons, there was a renegotiation.
Okay.
Ultimately, through a series of events and a little pressure, I ended up settling for way less than what I wanted. And going forward, and then in season 2, the DVD's released, and it sets all these incredible records. Turns out the
$500,000 in one day,
right?
1.2 million in a week, the largest selling television DVD of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now suddenly, this is a bigger money maker than they thought. It was already making money, but now all of a sudden it's a whole new revenue stream, and my contract's up.
Yeah.
So yeah, you hear how fucking crazy successful that was.
Yeah.
$500,000 in a day it sold, and that's people physically going to the store back then. You know what I mean? There is something different about that too, where you have to get out of your house and buy the DVD.
Go to Strawberries.
Oh yeah, I have the box set. Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how rewatchable that show is too.
It is, and there's only
stays funny.
I brought up the 28 episodes. That's the amazing thing is that Comedy Central this day reruns it all the time. And the idea of reruns is like the reason for syndication, like not a rule, but their basis is when you get to 100 episodes, you're in syndication.
Right.
And the logic behind that is, well, we're going to run it 5 nights a week. So we want people to keep coming back and saying, oh, I haven't seen this episode of Married with Children or whatever the fuck.
Great show.
With Chappelle, there's 28 episodes that they run every night.
Yeah.
And people will watch them over and over again.
They're so well done.
It really is, in my opinion, the best sketch show ever done. And we talk about our big segment here. Not really a segment, just a throwaway thing. But we talk about what did I call it? Coaching tree.
Coaching tree.
Where people influences that have come from Chappelle's show. I mean, every sketch show that Comedy Central did after this.
Oh,
every sketch show after this.
Just on Comedy Central, look at the format, whether it's Amy Schumer, Dimitri Martin, Sarah Silverman, Nick Kroll, Key and Peele. Every sketch show was, we'll do a little stand-up, we'll talk to the crowd, and hey, play this clip. That was every sketch show after this, whereas I don't know, did Kids in the Hall or any of those guys do that before Chappelle? I don't really remember that sort of format, where it's like a stand-up or a guy talking.
SCTV.
I think Kids in the Hall had talking segments.
Maybe.
I couldn't tell you the last time I watched.
But that was more of a an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
this was set up like Seinfeld.
Well, but this one was made like this was Chappelle's show. Like he was the stand-up guy who came out, introduced the clips. Like he was the host as well as like the star.
It was Seinfeld like in the sense that like let me show you a stand-up bit around what you're about to see.
Right.
Which I don't think had really been done. Correct me if I'm wrong on Twitter or something. So yeah, I mean, those are the obvious influences are pretty much every sketch show that came after it.
Yeah.
What do we have next?
Still on Oprah.
No, I know.
Talking about the show not being socially responsible.
Oh, so it's not what you think. I know you think this is sarcastic. This is actually the reason that Chappelle talks about leaving. He talked about this with Oprah, and then he did an episode. I don't love Letterman's third act or whatever this is, where he's grown his beard and now he's a thoughtful guy who does an interview show on Netflix. But he did I thought easily his best episode was the one with Chappelle. I thought they had a very good conversation, and he talks about this a little more in depth. But he talks about the reason, one of the reasons. I'll set this up, but I want to go back for a second. But in this clip, he talks about one of the reasons that he started to think, like, are people finding the right things funny? Like going back to the Rick James thing. But just about that last clip, one more thing is, we'll talk about kind of the money and what part was his fault in taking the deal and all that. But you hear in the last clip where he's talking about, like, I signed the first deal and I took less than I wanted and all that. There is a point of, like, when does the industry do right by these guys? And I think $50 million is doing right by them. But also, like, just getting off their ass. And I think that was more important to Chappelle, where it's like just not hearing any feedback from guys who don't know what the fuck they're doing was more important to him than even making $100 million, you know?
There's also, I don't know if it's in the videos, but there was always an example he brought up about...
Oh, he's about to talk about it.
The N-word?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just hear that.
Okay, you mentioned a moment ago that you felt that there were some things that weren't socially responsible. Like what?
Like there's this one sketch we did that was about this pixie that would appear whenever racist things happens. Whenever someone make you feel like they calling you that N-word, but don't say it. And it was funny. And the premise of the sketch was that every race had this like pixie, this like racial complex. And but the pixie was in blackface. Now, blackface is a very difficult image. But the reason I had chosen blackface at the time was because this was going to be the visual personification of the N-word. It was it was a good spirit or intention behind it. But what I didn't consider is how many people watch the show and how the way people use television is subjective.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
I could go finish, because I have a story to tell you.
So then when I'm on the set and we're finally taping the sketch,
fascinating.
Somebody on the set that was white laughed in such a way. I know the difference of people laughing with me and people laughing at me. And it was the first time I'd ever gotten a laugh that I was uncomfortable with. Not just uncomfortable, but like, should I fire this person?
So basically he's saying there was a Craig on staff that just thought, ooh, he said the N-word and was giggling to himself.
I'd never.
Just a true racist is what Chappelle was talking
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
So I have mixed feelings on that, and I'm curious what you guys think, because part of me says that, hey, you're making a show that's going on TV. You're not showing this to your buddies, you know. You're not. This is going on national television. Hopefully, a lot of people watch it. Like that's your goal. I assume. The goal. You talked about how great it was that everyone bought the fucking DVDs. That was setting records. So obviously, you want a lot of people to see it. So you kind of have to accept the fact that morons are going to watch your show.
Well, I want to know what a blackface pixie got a laugh that he was uncomfortable with was some like white guy like,
yes, you know, I think he's literally saying, because I've heard him. Like I said, he goes more in depth about it on the Letterman thing.
Yeah.
For Netflix reasons, I couldn't use that clip, but he's basically saying, yeah, they were laughing at the blackface rather than what the blackface meant. But your point is kind of where I was going to go, where I'm torn on it a little, where it's like maybe it's just him being paranoid.
Very possible.
You know what I mean? Maybe the guy was laughing at what he was doing, and Chappelle's like, oh, this white motherfucker is laughing because this is black. He doesn't get it. Where, again, he may be more... There's two things there, where he may be more cued in on it and aware of it, where I wouldn't be, but he also may be more sensitive to it, whereas I wouldn't be that either.
Well, I think those go hand in hand.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, also, you made this, dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is he made it so... he kind of has to accept that people might not understand.
Yeah, I mean, like the difference between creation or intention and interpretation.
Well, that's the thing with blackface too, is it's very a lot of people don't get it.
I'd be very curious to know what he thinks about, because I've never heard him talk about this. I'd be very curious to know what he thinks about like the episodes of 30 Rock and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia getting taken down
Yeah.
off of like Hulu and Netflix and shit.
Well, there's very evil cackles in the screenings. So
Yeah, yeah. If there were no laughs, then maybe it'd be all right. No, but I'd be curious because, in my opinion, those are not blackface in the sense that
disrespectful.
It wasn't
blackface.
minstrel show type blackface. Although it was in one of the 30 Rock sketches because they were mocking. It was John Hamm wearing blackface.
Oh yeah,
and it was a sketch with Tracy Morgan and John Hamm, and John Hamm was wearing blackface, but it was a sketch of a show from like the 1950s or something. It was in black and white and everything, and the idea was making fun of the fact that they used to do that. So I'd be curious if Chappelle would say that episode should get taken down because it represents something socially irresponsible, or if he would say no, that obviously Tina Fey is not a fucking racist. She's trying to show something that was bad in our culture in the past.
I'm also curious what he would think of the Megyn Kelly getting fired for asking a question about it. I'm curious what his thought was on that because he was awfully quiet during that.
Well, I don't know if he was purposely quiet.
Well, I know, but
if the first thought isn't, well, what does Dave Chappelle
so
think about
this clip is 2006.
Yeah.
He's talking about it.
Yeah.
He's talking about this very same thing. When was that? 2 years ago? That Letterman interview?
Letterman interviewed him about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still
It's about his show.
But it's still on his mind that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a stretch.
I don't know, but it's,
no one asked him about Megyn Kelly. He's not avoiding the subject.
He kind of talks about everything like that.
Well, do you want to hear? We have a clip for him talking about the different kinds of laughs. You wanna
I don't get the
see
Megyn
if he
Kelly.
clears it up.
Yeah,
Maybe
let's see if he clears it.
defends your girl Megyn Kelly. Maybe
that'd be great if he was like, it's like, you know, Oprah, in a few years, there's going to be this girl, Megyn Kelly. And what I think she's going to do is very dangerous.
She asks why.
What was it about the laugh?
I know all these people be watching TV, that there's a lot of people who will understand exactly what I'm doing. Then there's another group of people who are just fans, like the kind of people that scream, "I'm Rick James," be at my concerts.
Yeah.
That they long for a different kind of celebrity.
2 years later,
crowd.
that's Rick James
They're gonna get something
completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
That concern me.
Yeah.
I don't want black people to be disappointed in me for putting that out there.
No, you didn't want to be disappointed in yourself.
You know what, Oprah? You're right.
Yeah.
You know what, Oprah? But that's something Chappelle struggled with a lot, where he is now this kind of like preacher. Like he's become a philosopher and a preacher essentially. And some of it's weird. Like the George Floyd thing he put out, where he's like, it was basically the movie 23 with Jim Carrey, where he's like, isn't it weird? Kobe Bryant's jersey number versus the time that George. Like, what are you talking about, Dave? It was a little conspiratorial.
Yeah.
But he does, I don't know if it's an obligation he feels or whatever it is, he feels a need to talk about that kind of stuff. And I think he does it brilliantly. Even whether I agree with him on everything or not.
He hates white people.
He does it. I don't think he does. I think he hates a certain. It's like we'll talk about Patrice in a few weeks or whatever that is.
Or we did. I don't know.
Or maybe we talked about it. Who knows? But it's the same thing with Patrice. Well, people would say Patrice was racist against white people.
What?
I think it's not injustice, but more than that, a glaring difference in the way black entertainers are treated. That he and I think the reason he talks about the trans issue show so much is he would talk about guys like Martin Lawrence and Chris Rock and a few of those other guys that came before him having to do drag. Like they would always put them in a dress in a sketch or something like that. And at one point, I guess they wanted Chappelle to do it, and he refused to do it. And he said, "Why is it that you always want us to be portrayed like this at some point?"
That clears up the trans issues he's got.
It may be. Maybe it comes from that.
Well, no, it's the threatened by the black man.
Yeah,
is the whole idea that I think you're jumping.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, no, I mean, so like there's this theory that like black masculinity is
they want to emasculate.
Oh, right.
Is what Chappelle's trying to say. Yeah. So I mean, it's an inner struggle, and that's the. You know, you could probably go around this room and realize that sometimes it is nice to be a fucking moron like me. It's I live in blissful ignorance.
Why are you looking at me?
Where I'm not.
It's so sick.
I'm not.
It is.
It's great. I'm not burdened. We're not burdened with all these troublesome thoughts.
Exactly.
and theories.
That's actually what I was gonna jumping off what you were saying. I think that's part of it. Patrice actually talked about this on O&A a couple of times. He's like letting white people in on the joke.
Yes.
Is
it
like
bothered him.
Is it well no, he didn't say it bothered him. He said it was hard to do that in a way that everyone would get it.
Right.
And you wouldn't just reinforce things for idiots.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a tough.
Yeah.
And that's again, not to do this in every time this fucking argument comes up. I think white guys feel the need to do this, but it is something like
real diverse.
I will
too.
genuinely. Yeah. Right. I will genuinely, and no one in this room will ever understand that burden that he feels, where like he's doing a disservice to his race while also trying to be an outspoken voice and advocate for them.
For them. Exactly. And that's the dichotomy between letting people in on the joke versus reinforcing stereotypes.
Which is why I think it was so necessary for him to turn down $52 million, because he's looking at these white suits telling him what's funny.
Yeah.
I'm sure telling him if that ever came up in a meeting, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. And Chappelle looking back at them thinking, how the fuck would you know if it's a big deal to me or not?
Right.
So I imagine that bothered him a lot and was a tough thing for him.
Yeah, what I was talking about earlier was there was something with an executive saying something about the N-word.
Yeah.
And he got pissed that they were taking a stand on it, and they clearly couldn't really because it was a white woman. I just forget the exact story.
Yeah,
which is,
I think I know what you're talking about, but it was a similar type of thing.
Yeah, he brings it up often, and I don't know why I can't.
I thought it was this. I think maybe it's this you're thinking of, but it was.
We're gonna do this before every clip. We're gonna get it.
No. I'm saying what we just played.
Oh,
I thought it might have been that.
No, it wasn't. It was literally he was on the phone with an executive.
Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe he talks about it in the Letterman thing too. That's a much better. Go watch the Letterman thing instead. You've already downloaded this, so.
Did you give us that 5 minutes? Come on.
What's next, Matt?
Comedy Central lied.
Yeah. So again, now he's seeing this, and he's dealing with all this shit, the Rick James bitch, and the racial stuff, and then he's also hearing what's put out in the media, and at a certain point, even me, who has no money, says like, I kind of am starting to get it, like how you could get to the point where you turn down $50 million.
Right.
I still haven't gotten to why you just disappeared. So you had that moment, the guy's laughing too much. Was that the tipping point for you? Was that the straw?
That was the first tipping point.
Okay.
Guy's laughing too
much. Then
much.
they put in the paper that I had pneumonia, God knows what. It was walking pneumonia because I was walking all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Pause for a second, Matt.
I was relaxed.
Sorry, I should have set that up. So season 3 was delayed. There were multiple delays for season 3, and they said that Chappelle has pneumonia. That was before. This was before the drug thing and the psych ward thing. They said Chappelle has pneumonia, and they asked him to go along with it, and he was like, I don't have pneumonia. I don't want to. I don't want to do the show. I said I wanted to take a break because he was dealing with stress and stuff like that. They didn't want to say stress because they thought he would sound crazy. Which, especially now in the time of like mental health awareness and all that shit.
Yeah,
it's only 15 years ago that they were like, "Oh, you'll sound nuts if you say you need to take some time off." So that's what he's talking about here.
And then after that, I was coming back to the show. And then they were like, well, Dave, you should just back up the pneumonia story. And I was like, that was your thing. I'm not backing up a pneumonia story. And then the next day it was in the paper that I had writer's block. Then I knew something was getting ready to get stressful because I hadn't even started writing. I was on the schedule to write. So I was like, what's going on? Are they going to...
So these are your people trying to
manipulate me. Sounds like somebody's trying to put young Dave in a compromising position. Oprah. But, okay, so then I got worse. So when I said I'm not going to do it, then all of a sudden it was like, well, now he has walking pneumonia. And then I knew long before I walked, I had considered walking.
You had considered
I had considered walking because I went back to work and the vitamin love was gone because it was a real ugly negotiation. It's a situation where now everybody's taking credit for this and that and the other. It's it was getting ridiculous, and I knew I was going to leave, so I got ahead of schedule, and I bounced. And I didn't tell anybody where I was going. The whole time, they're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication. Yeah. Like I'm sitting around, you know, I was stressed out, but the people that were telling me I was insane, I believe that they knew what was going on. Huh. So this was troublesome.
Yeah.
This was troublesome, to say the least. I think, by the way, that Chappelle picked Oprah to do his return interview with, just so he could say things like Oprah.
To be able to
I feel like he really loved that.
Yeah, to be able to end a sentence with Oprah is just awesome.
So you hear they're starting the plot to make him seem insane.
Yeah.
And it worked. I was a Chappelle Show fan, and for years, I mean, I was only 15, so maybe it worked with our demographic specifically. But for a while, I was like, oh, Chappelle went nuts.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what everyone our age thought.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, he's just crazy. He went to Africa, which, by the way, he did. Which I think that might be in one of the clips, but
the Letterman one. Well, actually, I don't know what part we're playing from that Tonight Show or not. Whatever.
Sometimes you can just let me get there organically.
Well, no, it was like a 15-minute video, so I don't know if we're playing that part.
Okay, well, as I'm saying, he did go to South Africa, but they portrayed that, and this is the race thing where, like, even I can pick up on this one, where, like, it is a weird thing for white executives to be like, he must be crazy.
Yeah.
Who would go to Africa?
I got uncomfortable watching that.
Right? Like what kind of a crazy person would go to Africa? Which Chappelle has a funny line about, but
when did he? Do we get to him converting to Islam?
I don't know if that was during.
I don't know when that was.
I don't know if that was even during this.
Because I think that was something that I had heard. That, like, when they were talking about, oh, Chappelle went crazy, like, oh, he converted to Islam and now he hates America, and that's why he went to Africa. That was one of the things that I had heard.
Well, he studies. I know he hasn't converted to Islam.
Well,
he's Muslim.
I'm just saying that's one of the things.
Comedy Central's like, yeah, the war in Afghanistan is fresh still. So
yeah.
I think it may have something to do with Dave Chappelle. They found weapons of mass destruction in Ohio. Well, they'll answer all our questions and more, I think. What's the next Oprah clip, Matt?
Asking if was the fame that bothered him.
Okay, yeah.
Were you too cool?
You've worked your whole life for it. You wanted it. You've struggled to get it. Sacrificed, rejected many times, told that things wouldn't work, and then all of a sudden, you're the genius, and we're going to give you $50 million. And that was too much for you to handle?
A shitty question.
No. That's the thing that I always read that makes me mad. No. It was the fame. Couldn't stand the fame.
Yeah.
I love being famous.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. When I came out here and everybody was like, hooray, I was like, I'm back on TV.
Okay, so that's clear. It's not the fame. It's what?
It's the way the people around you position themselves around you to get in your pockets and in your mind.
Yeah.
It's infuriating to me.
Huh. And just to add to that, there's a part of the interview that I didn't include, but I think it's one of the more famous references that he makes in this interview. But he's talking about how what fame does to people, and he references like Mariah Carey and Martin Lawrence, which we'll have to get into Martin Lawrence one day, because I don't remember, I don't know a lot about his breakdown, but I guess he was in the streets waving a gun at one point, shit like that. So he references those.
Real Gilbert Arenas.
And he says with a lot of these people, and he references like black celebrities and everything, but I think fame in general does it to people where when you have a breakdown, it's usually when you get to a certain point of fame. And he was kind of saying that it probably has a lot to do with not just the money that they dangle over your head, but the power that they dangle over you, where they want to have this much creative control over what you're doing, or even just telling people you're fucking crazy, telling the media you're crazy.
Yeah.
With a lot of people, like, who knows? Maybe with Mariah Carey, they started saying she was crazy before she like it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe you know what I mean? Like I don't know about
gaslit her.
Yeah, I don't know about her specifically, but with some people, when you start to hear you're crazy, you're like maybe I am fucking crazy, you know? And then eventually you kind of feed into that unknowingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that. I mean, you're hearing a lot of what Chappelle was dealing with at that time, and it's amazing because, like I said, we all thought he went crazy. Like, oh, he went to Africa.
I mean, it was a successful smear campaign.
It was a very successful smear campaign, and it shows you what, you know, and they continue to do. Like, you'll watch these free Britney documentaries and shit, and it's like, wow, the media treated her so horribly.
Yeah.
It's like, why is that different than what you do to anyone that gets famous now?
Yeah.
Whether it's cancel culture bullshit or, you know, someone who's like just personal life, you get way too invasive on.
Oh man, the Britney shit. All I can think about is that episode of Chappelle Show. Sorry, South Park, when they make her kill herself.
Well, maybe in her mind, if only.
I know, right?
Any more Oprah, Matt? I forget.
Yeah, the last one is talking about whether or not he was in a psychiatric ward.
Oh yeah, so let's hear this. So this is where he talks about going to Africa and everything.
So did you go to a psychiatric hospital?
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Who? Oh, yeah, that's right. I was so...
I'm only asking because I need to ask.
I gotta get people thinking, all right, who goes from America to Africa for medical attention?
I like that Oprah goes, so true.
I cannot imagine. This doesn't sound like the most irresponsible journalism in the world. I cannot imagine being a journalist and hearing this from these people and just running with it. It was on everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, we wonder why now, like conspiracy theorists used to be on the fringes.
Yeah.
Used to be one rogue nut that you'd hear on like overnight radio or something. But now it's like a popular what am I looking for? Genre of like podcasts and books and things like that.
It's an acceptable aspect of one's personality.
Completely, yeah. So it's not crazy to be a conspiracy theorist anymore. And I think part of that is, you know, like people will blame like politics and all that shit. But a lot of it is we did not have the access to, like at the time, if NBC says Dave Chappelle went crazy and moved to Africa and is in a psych ward, we have really no choice but to believe that.
Yeah.
Other than like our common sense, I guess, where we could say, that doesn't sound right.
I don't recall the psych ward part. I just remember.
Oh, I do.
I do. Yeah.
I remember him just being in South Africa and not wanting to come back.
I remember the psych ward, and they also said, which I don't remember if he had. Oh, he talked about drugs. They said he was on crack.
Right. Well, I knew that part.
Which is
that might be the most racist part.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. He's on whatever the black drug is at this time. You know.
He went to Africa and did crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other stereo? He joined a gang.
Yeah.
He,
I don't know. He mentions PCP a couple times in some sketches.
Yeah. He abandoned his kids. All you know.
His favorite movie's Training Day.
Yeah.
All the hits. It is nuts what the media did to him, and it shows you that like maybe people that question the media aren't that fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's not crazy to question a lot of the shit that they put out there because back in the day that's all we had, but now you have 10 million outlets.
Well, like only shortly before this was like when like Matt Drudge like started his website and started like digging through like CBS's trash and shit.
Yeah,
you know,
and I mean it's hard to say because of that we also have the sloppiest journalism of all time now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before it was like tabloids would put something out there for views, but now that's everyone. So it's hard to say which time is better because now we have more options, but because you have more options, you have no fucking idea what's going on.
Yeah, I can agree partly with that.
It's tough. It's tough to say, you know. But regardless, obviously, Chappelle's show was canceled, but not quite. So this is I don't really even understand how this all happened. But so that interview was in what, May or April of 2006, I think. Later that year in December, during their whatever Comedy Central does at the end of the year, fucking, you know, Laugh Riot 2006, whatever the fuck they do. They started running ads saying, Gang, guess who's coming back? Season 3 of Chappelle's Show will be premiering soon. I'm sorry, you know what? I think I might have the timeline wrong. That ad may have played before the Oprah interview.
It was in December of 05.
December of 05.
So a few months before the Oprah interview.
So he may have said it during the Oprah interview, but definitely around that time. He said if they people forget this Oprah interview was still in the midst of like where he might come back.
Right. Yeah.
Like he's talking all this shit and everything, but he hasn't resigned completely. And he hasn't completely said he's never going to come back, but he did say if they don't give me creative control, and if they play any one of these episodes without my permission, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so Comedy Central stopped playing those ads. Toot sweet. They were like, "Oh, all right,
whoops,
you can play some hardball, Dave." So they stopped running those ads. But evidently, I guess negotiations didn't go well. And later that year, I think, is when they played what they called the Lost episodes. It was in June of that year, right? So a couple months later. Yeah, so they played the Lost episodes where you have Charlie Murphy and Donnell Rawlings host. And obviously, I mean, Charlie Murphy's no longer with us, unfortunately, but Charlie Murphy toured with Chappelle a little bit, and Donnell Rawlings still opens for Chappelle to this day. So obviously it didn't hurt their relationship too much.
Yeah, he's attached at his legs.
Completely.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you be?
Right. And he's a funny guy, but like he still opens for Chappelle and all that. So at the time, people called Donnell Rawlings and Charlie Murphy traitors, which is like, I can understand why you'd think like, oh, they're trying to take over his show, I guess. But Chappelle was still in all the sketches, which is weird. It's like, you can't do the show without Chappelle, obviously.
No.
So why even put these episodes out?
And they didn't clear it with Dave prior?
No. So Donnell Rawlings explains why.
Okay.
And it was a interesting situation because you have Comedy Central on one end. It's like, all right, we did pay for these. We can't just not do it. And then you had on the other end is, what do you do? And that was a tough decision for me and Charlie to host the Lost episode because nobody had walked through that curtain. It was his show. Nobody had walked through that curtain. You know what I'm saying? At the time, he hadn't really communicated his thoughts on what he wanted to do. Like, if the nigga would have called me and said, yo, son, don't do it, I wouldn't have fucked with it, you know? But also, it was an opportunity for me because I still was getting a name for myself. And it was another opportunity for people to continue to see what I bring to comedy. And I think that me and Charlie did it in the most tasteful way that we could do it. When Charlie was like, he said, man, we didn't want to come out here. I said, fuck that, speak of yourself, nigga. I need as much camera time as I can get. Right. It was like, you know, some people feels like that Lost episodes kind of sold the audience short. But what do you do but try to do something creative so people can continue to see the work?
It's tough. In hindsight, it's very easy to say he should have just not done it. Because it's like it's 3 episodes. What did he really?
It's very easy to say that because he's clearly like money.
Yeah, but I don't think he's at a point in his career where he could have turned down money.
Exactly.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Which makes what Chappelle did so admirable, I guess, because Chappelle wasn't totally there either, where he could just turn down $50 million and not miss it. But Donnell Rawlings was far less famous than Chappelle.
Yeah,
it was probably literally like paying his bills.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. I don't know about paycheck to paycheck, but it was like not living easy.
But you guys hear him? He didn't even say money. He said screen time.
That's true too.
Like,
where
give me
like
that screen time,
exactly, where he's trying to make a name for, he's trying to become Donnell Rawlings.
Yeah,
where instead of just Ashy Larry, you know. Which he's still. I mean, people still yell that shit at him. Like, like when I saw Chappelle, Donnell Rawlings open for him, and they said, "You know him as Ashy Larry from the Chappelle Show." So that's still like attached to him.
Ashy Larry is a hilarious character.
It's great.
But I threw that in there particularly because I think it's an interesting dynamic to show how like I don't at all blame Donnell Rawlings for doing it.
Oh yeah.
But it also shows you how tough it must have been for Chappelle to do something on a much higher magnitude.
Yeah.
Like much more at stake for Chappelle. And you know, it could have hurt. That could have hurt Donnell Rawlings' relationship with Chappelle by doing it.
Yeah.
It didn't, obviously, but it could have. But it would have been far worse for him career-wise to be like, fuck you.
Right.
Oh,
because
big time.
he's not Dave Chappelle. He can't say fuck you to Comedy Central, you know? And who knows with that, if someone at Comedy Central then is working at Netflix now, maybe they say you don't have the half hour that you have. You're not on Bert Kreischer's show and the shit that Netflix is giving, you know? So it just goes to show you that the decision Chappelle was making was obviously so difficult.
Yeah.
Where are we now, Matt?
Does he regret turning down the money?
This is Chappelle?
Yes.
Oh, so this is his comeback.
Judging by that watch, no.
This is the clip I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. So Chappelle was pretty much out of the public eye. Now, again.
Yeah, he was in Africa in a psych ward.
Well, it's funny you say that, Mike. A lot of people thought that.
Yeah.
Like he was in Africa for like 2 weeks or something.
I know.
A lot of people
on
thought,
vacation.
A lot of people thought soul searching. He even said it was like an eat, pray, love kind of thing. Like he was, literally like looking for answers. And he has like family in Africa.
A sissy vacation.
Which is wild. He says he has family and friends in Africa, and they still manage to portray it like he's probably living in a hut.
In a hut.
Yeah.
He used to take a bath. He goes down to the river with a bucket to fill his tub.
Yeah.
On his head.
So, but genuinely, a lot of people thought from 2006 to 2014, he was living in Africa. But he was, this is when he's like I said, he was playing basements for a while.
I was to say, was he touring?
And then
this is when he was doing he would bring like a boombox to like a park and just start talking.
Yeah, he started doing that. I mean, I think at this point he started doing. Yeah, you just show up at Starbucks. No, I think at this point he started he did the Oddball Festival and stuff like that. So I think he started to play bigger shows at this point. But I believe this is the first interview he had done in a long time. So he came out on Letterman. They kind of shot the shit for a while, and then they actually get into it a little more.
Do you regret saying, I don't want this enormous sum of money?
Well, okay, look, Dave. It's very hard to go through something like this because no one's really done it before.
His voice is
so there's not
different.
too many people that don't think I'm crazy, right? So I look at it like this. I'm at a restaurant with my wife. It's a nice restaurant. We're eating dinner. I look across the room. I say, you see this guy over here across the room? He has $100 million. And we're eating the same entree. So, okay, fine. I don't have $50 million or whatever it was. But say I have $10 million in the bank. The difference in lifestyle is minuscule. The only difference between having $10 million and $50 million is an astounding $40 million.
So obviously hilarious.
Yeah.
But also, I think the thing you notice most there is he doesn't not regret it.
Yeah.
Right.
But he doesn't regret it either. You know what I mean? I think he knows that, hey, I would have had $50 million if I just stuck it out for a little while. But also, I have my integrity. I'm eating in the same restaurants as people with $50 million.
Yeah.
Because I have 10. Or whatever. Now, if you'd ask him this in 2021, I think he's made up that sum.
Oh,
you know
sure.
what I mean? Netflix paid him $70 million or something. Maybe I'm mixing that up with Eddie Murphy's number. But it was something close to that.
It's not nothing.
Yeah.
That was just for that wasn't even for the Chappelle show. That was just the
the 6 specials.
Yeah.
I don't know what he got. Well, we'll get into he did make a deal for Chappelle Show, which we'll get into in a minute.
Right.
But yeah, the thing with Letterman was very funny because he made this decision like he said. No one has ever made that before that I can think of. I'm sure there's obviously people have walked away from shows and things like that, but no creator of a show at that height, the most popular cable show ever at the time, has said, all right, 28 episodes in, I'm just going to end it. $50 million now, go fuck yourself. I'm going to go into hiding for 10 years.
The DVD sales were that good.
Yeah,
no one's ever done that.
It was probably still good, right up until streaming.
I would think so.
Kept going.
Yeah, and Chappelle probably got none of that, honestly.
Well, because you couldn't find it anywhere forever, so people would buy it.
Yeah. Is there more Letterman, Matt? I forget.
No, that's it for Letterman.
That was it on Letterman?
Yeah. Now we're talking about what you were just talking about, the HBO debacle.
All right.
It is amazing how different he looks though. In that interview with Oprah, it looks like the couch is eating him.
Yeah.
Right. But in that Letterman thing, when he walks out, he's busting through his suit.
It's Chappelle's career just based on like appearance and his voice, everything. The only comparison I can think of is Pacino. Where it's like you watch, if you just watched The Godfather and whatever his last movie, the fucking Paterno movie, you'd be like, that is not
But at least Chappelle's cadence and stuff is the same. It's just a different
Oh yeah, he's not
octave. Yeah, he's not going like, I don't want my father bothered to
Is my mic all right, Matt? I can't hear myself, but as long as it's all right on you.
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay, cool.
Stop touching those.
Huh?
I was telling him to stop touching those.
Oh, okay.
I got mine sounds a little different now too.
So now we're well,
I gotta turn you guys down when you start cackling these clips.
Hey, don't turn the clip up.
So people
That's not how it works.
Producers in battle here.
I don't know how it works.
Producers battling for the seat. There's a reason Matt's there, all right? Let him do it. So now we fast forward another 7 years, and we're in the world of streaming services. And Chappelle's show is now on HBO and Netflix, and it's a little weird because it was always weird, like I said, knowing all of this stuff, to see Chappelle's show on Comedy Central, that's kind of fucked up. It's like there's just no acknowledgement that you kind of fucked this guy over in a weird way, even though, I mean, you were paying him, but like there's obviously this dispute, and obviously that's his, or it should be his intellectual property and creative property, and obviously it's not, because Comedy Central was playing it all the time. So now we are in a world where anyone can watch Chappelle's show anytime on HBO and Netflix. I think the average person probably didn't give it that much thought, but Chappelle certainly did, and put this out on Instagram.
No, hear me out. Did you know, before Chappelle's show was at Comedy Central, I pitched that show to HBO. I told them what I wanted to do. Now, these are executives. All they have to do is say, yeah, we'll take it, or no, thank you, we won't. But they didn't say either of those things. They went too far. They said, literally, what do we need you for? That's what they told me, as they kicked me out of the office. What do we need you for? And here we are, all these years later, and they're streaming the very show that I was pitching to them. So I'm asking them, what do you need me for?
This is one of those, so he put this, and again, what we're about to play in a minute, he put two different, like people call them specials, they were like 20-minute rants he had, I guess. He put them both on Instagram, and they were brilliantly done, and it's more, again, where it wasn't like it wasn't comedy even, really. There was funny parts of it, but it was a talk, you know what I mean? It was a brilliant preaching session is pretty much what it was. And so the full, he's explained that a little more in depth, and the full quote, I guess, was, what do we need you for? We have Chris Rock. So I guess it was when he was pitching Chappelle's show, it was when the Chris Rock show was on.
Chris Rock show was on.
and again, like, I don't cry racism, and all, like, I'm usually against it when it's brought up in a lot of these stories, but this is one where it's basically like, well, we have this funny black guy. What would we need your show for?
Yeah,
we've already checked that box.
Imagine
is basically what HBO should.
Imagine Chappelle and Grown Ups.
Well, again, it sounds crazy now, but if he took that $50 million, I think that's the guy he becomes.
Maybe, yeah,
maybe.
Not like not necessarily Adam Sandler's crew, but whatever the equivalent is, I think that's kind of who he is if he takes that money.
Yeah. But on a side note, by the way, have you guys ever found the Chris Rock show anywhere? Like, where is it?
The only sketch I've ever seen,
the How to Not Get Pulled Over by the Police,
comes up every time.
Yeah. That's the only one I've ever seen of that show.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Is it not on HBO Max?
I've never seen it anywhere.
I don't know.
It might be. I mean, I've never
sure.
seen it advertised. I'm sure if you
neither have I.
Have to search for it, but I've never seen it listed. I've never seen it anywhere.
You know what I can't find either on HBO Max is Lucky Louie for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh, it's weird.
I don't know why that got taken.
I was about to answer that seriously. Well, you see, he got canceled, and then they took it down.
How sad was it for those guys, the other guys in that show, though?
Chris Rock show's on HBO Max.
Is it really?
It doesn't take that long to.
Well, no, I've never searched for it, but it's never like popped up in like one of the suggested things or anything.
Not to go off on a rant here, but you know what else doesn't pop up on there, and I'm curious if it's on there, is The Life and Times of Tim.
It's
incredibly underrated.
It's getting put back on. Incredibly underrated show, and
Yeah.
it's getting added to HBO Max. I don't know if it's on there now, but it was.
Might have to do it Life and Times of Tim episode.
What
It's
show
a
is
great
that?
show. It's a cartoon that was on Friday nights on HBO. It was only on 2 or 3 seasons.
It was like he looked like Dimitri Martin, didn't he?
I thought it was like.
I thought it was
until you hear the voice. I thought it was Dimitri Martin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredibly underrated.
But yeah, just in conclusion, the Chris Rock show is on 5 different streaming platforms.
that's it.
But I've never seen it advertised anywhere. I've just never seen it. Like it's not like out there like Chappelle Show.
My guess is it's not as good as you're remembering.
Well, I don't remember ever seeing it. The only time I even knew he had a show was like the first like.
We'll get to the bottom of this in the Chris Rock show.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My apologies.
So the debate here was basically, and I remember Jim Norton and Andrew Schultz were the two that I heard say, like, I get what Dave's saying, but he signed the deal with Comedy Central.
Right.
So I can understand that argument. But what Chappelle is doing here, I believe, was a lot bigger than that. And that's why you'll hear this a lot. And like I said, we're recording this in October, so I'm sure I'm hoping the story has gone away and the closer is still on Netflix.
Yeah.
But when that was a big thing, and people were saying, you don't understand the danger that it would bring to Shane Gillis, Tim Dillon, Sam Morrill, these guys. If the closer gets taken down off Netflix, try having Dave Chappelle's type of career. It will be impossible. So similarly, Chappelle's saying, well, I have the power to do this now. Yes, I signed the deal, but are you going to deny that I had something to do with the creating of Chappelle's Show?
That's also like when they originally did Chappelle Show, he was more or less a no name.
Right. So he was saying basically you can do the legally to the letter of the law correct thing, or you could do the morally right thing. And give me a few shekels here.
But that would be like a bonus thing because like if you look at the NFL, they sign contracts before they're like great and they're like, look what this guy, what a steal, we have him for like $2 million next year.
But it was impossible in 2004 to say, just in case, would you write in if Netflix, the place that sends you DVDs to your house, if that becomes a $270 billion company, just write in that if I'm ever on there, I get a few bucks from it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's impossible to think that far ahead. So HBO took it down, and Netflix pretty quickly said, should we take it down? And then looked and said, oh, we have this guy for 6 specials. We better probably take it down as well. So then he threw this up on Instagram.
I never asked Comedy Central for anything. If you remember, I said, I'm going to my real boss, and I came to you because I know where my power lies. I asked you to stop watching the show, and thank God Almighty for you, you did. You made that show worthless because without your eyes, it's nothing. And when you stopped watching it, they called me, and I got my name back, and I got my license back, and I got my show back, and they paid me millions of dollars. Thank you very much.
It's hard to feel a great deal of sympathy for a guy.
Right. Yeah.
Paid me a few mil. Thanks to my bosses who paid $140 to get in here.
Right.
But like I said, I think there is a greater good with a lot of what Chappelle's doing, whether it's railing against communities that are supposedly off limits or telling the industry to go fuck themselves. You could very easily look at it and say, Dave, you're fine. Like you got plenty of money. This money isn't going to help you at all. But without Chappelle, who knows how fucking rampant they would run on us? Like without a guy like Chappelle, who knows if Shane Gillis is allowed to even put his special on YouTube? You know what I mean? Like we would eliminate the market for that if the guys they already took down Louis.
Yeah.
If there's only so many guys like that at the top to speak for the guys at the bottom.
Without Chappelle, there might not be a house for patreon.com/blindmike where you can get these episodes early.
Which I've never once mentioned on this program. It's very magnanimous of me. I
just
never
remembered.
That That was 2 really good segues, Craig.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, make sure you go to patreon.com/blindmike. You get these episodes a week early. So you get a little exclusive. If you're scratching that itch, if you got a fever, and you need a little more, why are you laughing? You can get it early on patreon.com/blindmike. You can check out Very Good Show if you want more of these 2 gentlemen, Mike and Craig, and The Average Nobodies, which is Matt's podcast, is recorded right here in Vaulted Podcast Studios in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
You could have just turned it.
No, I couldn't because everything's tied down.
Yeah, it's tied down.
Why? What happened?
I was getting him on camera.
I had to tilt the camera up this week. Craig didn't like his angle last time.
By the way,
I was on the all gut team last
Yeah, I think I was a little bit too.
I looked at it and I was like, I should probably crop these in a little bit. Not
it was like from below me, and I was just like sweating on the lens.
It's an attractive room. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
As long as I look the best, if we could manage that somehow.
You look magnificent.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so check all those out. Support the show, patreon.com/blindmike. You also get the Blind Mike Project on there and everything else we do. So, in summation, by the way, we didn't do revisionist history with this one is a little weird. Because I guess we would all hope that Chappelle did a 3rd season, I guess.
Well, I think you kind of just did it. Well, you said if he had taken it, he would be Chris Rock now.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. In a way, I'm glad.
We naturally did it, baby.
As fans, we should be glad that he didn't do that. Because I do think his career would be completely different. We'd have a very funny season of television, I think. But I don't know that we'd have the Chappelle we have now, which I do believe he's less funny than he was. Like, the specials that come out now, I don't think are as funny as Killing Him Softly.
I think that speaks to your Carlin.
Yeah,
they're way more interesting. Though.
Yes, they're more interesting, and they're definitely more important.
It's more like he's doing a performance, not club comedy. Like laugh. He's doing. He's bringing you on a ride.
And we'll probably do Killing Him Softly at some point because that's my favorite special of all time.
Of all time?
Yeah, I think so. Why, you don't agree?
Oh, mine is Live in the Sunset Strip.
Well, excuse me. Pish posh.
Well, my
snob, comedy snob.
What? Isn't this a preference thing?
I would have to think about that one.
No, that is rare, though, that you would pick someone before your time. You know what I mean?
Oh, but Pryor...
he's the great.
Pryor just made me laugh so hard in that.
Bisexual, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is.
We'll talk about that off. And a CNN article that was written now a month ago infuriated me. Which is why I brought that up. But the time has passed.
What, that it outed him and you were like, man, I liked him so much.
No. The way they phrased it, I was just saying, they put Richard Pryor as a member of the LGBTQ community that would be offended by Chappelle.
Are you kidding?
Fuck you.
And him and Paul Mooney?
Yeah. Paul Mooney would be very offended.
Well, they were apparently, underneath the fireplace there.
Yeah, they were.
We'll wait to the Richard Pryor episode to besmirch that man's good name.
They were G and
We'll
B
drag him
together.
through the mud soon enough. All right, everybody. I'm ditching the ending catchphrase. I felt too good.
Chappelle Show.
No one mentioned it. I felt too good. Yeah, we'll end with that. Goodbye.
Let's start the show.